Hello, everybody. It's great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Yang. We believe at GST that intellectual capacity is evenly spread, but opportunities are not. With that, I have an incredible guest all the way from Sweden. So Tommy Nordahl is a serial entrepreneur, a startup investor, and tech investor. Over the years, he's founded multiple companies, including Riata, a successful consulting firm, and Mindville, a data management company that scaled to over 2,000 customers in more than 100 countries before being acquired by Atlassian. Today, he's the CEO and co-founder of Starhive, where he's taken on the challenge of building next-generation data and asset management platforms that's flexible and transparent. He's also passionate about AI, vibe coding, and we got to talk about that, and the future of enterprise applications. So with that, I'd like to bring him on board. So hi, Tommy. So where are you exactly in Sweden today?
Hi, Gary, and thanks for having me. I'm in Stockholm, Sweden, up on my attic right now.
Oh, there you
So
go.
yeah,
Is it warm or cold over there today?
we have our summers are fairly short, so it's starting to get a little bit cooler now. But we had a good finish of the summer, so we will live with that for a few months now when we go into the darker period.
I lived in Riga for some time, and it was kind of like that there a bit, but I really liked it actually in Yermala. And I spent some time in Stockholm and Oslo, and I lived in Russia 12 years, so I knew what cold was. That's for sure. Anyhow, so tell us, what inspired you to begin your entrepreneurial journey? It's been 20 years. So what really inspired you?
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. That's for sure. No, it's. I think it. I think I was abroad during we had some kind of dot-com crisis over here at beginning of 2000, right? So I went overseas, over to Asia for a couple of years, developing a lot of mobile phones back then. Learned a lot and went back home after a few years and just felt like I want to do something on my own. So we started this small consultancy firm to begin with, and yeah, we didn't mean to grow, but we did. A customer required that. So and yeah, it was actually a 15, 16-year-old long journey. So it was quite we learned a lot during those years, talking to hundreds of customers, and it was a fantastic journey altogether.
So when you went, where did you go in Asia?
I was working in Japan, China, Taiwan. Yeah, I was around a little bit, and also in Germany and US and England and stuff like that. So it was a few years on the road.
Yeah, that's what happens. I remember when we had the financial crisis here in 2007, 2008, and I decided to go back to school. So I said, this is once in a lifetime opportunity, and I'm going to go over to Russia, to Moscow, when we had a good relationship. Hard to believe now, right? But did it, and the market was unbelievable because the financial crisis didn't hit them initially like it did in the rest of the world. It was kind of
Yeah,
insulated actually, and it was interesting. And
absolutely.
I remember, during the dot-com crisis, I actually was the co-founder of a company called Broadient, which was in the e-commerce space. So we were working with Broadvision and some of the leading players at the time. And I remember in March when the dot-com bubble burst, I was there because we were doing an IPO on NASDAQ. And that company was Click Software, by the way, which was sold to Salesforce for 1.35 billion. But anyhow, I remember when it hit, the day that it hit actually, and the market started going down. I remember the stocks. I had 400,000, went down to 20, and it was like
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. It was like, and I remember this one guy, and I'm sure you had the same stories. This one guy I met that was a co-founder of one of the e-commerce companies, platform companies at the time. I said, dude, how much money do you have now? He said, well, I just checked and I'm worth $300 billion. Right. And I'm like, $300 billion. And this, I knew him like a year and a half before that. It was like, I couldn't believe it. So I said, what are you going to do? And I'm not going to mention his name because people might know who he is. But anyhow, I said, what are you going to do? He said, well, once I become a billionaire, then I'm going to start selling stock. And and then he says, I said, well, how did you get these Ferraris and taking around the world trips for you and your family and this $25 million house and all that? He said, well, I leveraged. I basically took, more money out against my shares, basically got loans against my shares. And so then the market tanked. And I remember his stuff, some of it got, they were coming after him because the stock wasn't worth as much as the loans he had. It was crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember that. Those were the days. But, you go forward too. You got to figure out, Tom, that's a resilience, right? Doing what you did when the market's bad in your country, you got to move around. And, Swedes and the Dutch are really renowned for it, right? They know how to move around because you speak so many languages. Right, and you can
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I had friends back then that has to totally switch their profession. They became teachers or skippers or whatever from IT. But I wouldn't leave IT, so I just went overseas and came back when everything cooled down. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, no, and when I went over to Russia, the same thing, right? It's a whole different environment, and then it got different again, and I came back in 2015 because a whole lot of different reasons. Anyhow, looking back, what were the biggest lessons from building Riata in Mineville? So if you could look at yourself and say, I learned this, and also, what would you have done differently?
Yeah, I mean the way we found our way with Riata with the consultancy gig was pretty amazing because we started off actually working a lot with IBM. It was that long ago, and it was fairly okay. But then we ran into the offering that Atlassian had and found that intriguing and start becoming experts on that. So we kind of steered the company towards providing solutions or services, more or less services around Atlassian products. And that was it was a great decision to take. Atlassian was blooming, everything was going in the right direction, so it was more or less tagging along and try to just become better and better on what we did and growing slowly and carefully, and we succeeded in taking on a large portion of the Scandinavian market actually. So we helped hundreds of customers deploying these solutions, these products, becoming more and more efficient every day. So that was a good journey, and I also learned the lesson of becoming a valued partner in a partner ecosystem for the first time, and that was a really valuable lesson, and I can't emphasize it enough. I think Atlassian is a role model when it comes to these kind of ecosystems. It's a fantastic ecosystem to be part of when we grew with them and the other partners, and we weren't competing in that sense. It was more a friendly attitude, and we helped each other out. And along the way, I also identified a possible gap in their platform, in their portfolio, which has to do with asset management or IT asset management back then in more CMDB, configuration management database wise. So we started our software company, fulfilling that gap, and it went well. We had customers, start using us. We got good traction, and we grew that company as well. And at the end of the day, Atlassian, needed that to be included in their core offering, and we agreed to be acquired, and that was a great journey as well. It's what I would have done differently. I don't know. I think we did a lot of rights. There were some decisions that might have been taken differently back in the days, but I'm one of those guys that don't focus too much on what could be done better. Try to learn in the moment and then move on from there. It was a great journey. Happy to be part of that, and both those companies are now sold, so it was a while ago, but it was a good journey. With that
And did
period.
you take any time off between selling, and did you take any time off and enjoy your life at all?
Yeah. I play golf, so I tried that, and after a while I decided not to quit my day job.
There you go.
It's fun, but I'm not too good at it, so I tend to return to what I know. So, and building products and teams is the best thing I know. It's that entrepreneurial stage with uncertainty and risk, and I'm stimulated by that. So yeah, I went at it again. So we this is my third round now, and we'll see how it goes. It's really really fun.
What advice would you give a startup founder today about building the importance of valuable partnerships and how they can help your business, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I think it's I talk to a lot of founders, and when I tell the story on how to create a valuable partner ecosystem, they're all ears, because it's a massive muscle if you get it right. We had 170 partners back in the Mindbuild days all over the globe, and it's fantastic at the end of the day, because they become very close to you, and you as a software provider, you try to do your best to meet their needs, listen to their tremendous valuable feedback that they come with. I mean, they have tentacles all over the place. They meet customers in all kind of industries, and having that feedback, honest feedback, sometimes hard feedback, is super valuable, because it gives you another level of insight on your product, how it's used, what you can do better. Sometimes maybe customers are a little bit, not, they are kind, or they don't tell the whole story, but partners can be rather upfront, and I love that, because that is the only way we can do better. But building a system there are a few things that I've seen, that I can maybe advise on, and I think focusing on your partner's growth is the most important thing. If you're going to create a partner ecosystem around your software on your platform, think about how you can grow your partners. It's not about program perks, you get this if you do that. It's more of a core value that you need to have for them to be able to elevate and to grow and to take larger market shares, and to embark on new verticals and whatnot. So I think that's core. And have fun together. It should be fun. Partner ecosystem should be fun. That's important. It's more important than you think. It's not only business. We need to have fun together, because life is too short otherwise. So
You're right about that. Tommy, there's things that we can do to help us in our lives, right? And the older you get, you understand how short it really is, right?
mm-hmm.
And I had 2 full body stem cell replacements done in Thailand. I had 100 million stem cells put in my body, and these frontier sciences stuff, and from umbilical cords, and I couldn't believe how much better that I felt. I turned the clock back 20 years, actually.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. And and it wouldn't have been for AI and technology and some of my own directions, I wouldn't have found it. And yet at the same time, there's so many people dying around the planet that don't use the technology that's in front of them to be able to help them, right? And it's like a plumber not being able to fix the pipes in his house or her house, because they just don't do it. You got to go down through. You're right. Life is short, so it's worth spending a little bit of money to have better quality of life and live longer.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
So if you've gone down through this journey, and you've talked to thousands of customers, right? And what patterns stood out the most in terms of how to be able to develop that rapport and relationship? Because it sounds like you're a relationship-oriented guy. You said one of the things you said is putting them ahead of yourself, because obviously if they're successful, you'll be successful. But on a 1 to 10 scale, how important is that to put them on ahead of you?
It's really important. I mean, that's what builds also trust, and people coming back to you. It goes all the way from partnerships to customers to what you're trying to do. I mean, at the end of the day, I tend to, my employees know that I keep on saying that we should feel pride on Fridays when we go home for the weekend. We have our beer, coffee, tea, or whatever we're having, reflecting on the week that has been. We should be proud of what we've done, and to become proud, you need to see that you make a difference. And when customers testify that you did something good for them, they say they succeeded with something. That's how we should treat each other and our partners and our customers, because then it comes back to you like a boomerang. So I think that's core. And talking to all those customers when it comes to the technology that we developed, there were 2 things that stood out, I would say. One thing, I mean, we developed a rather narrow thing back then, catering for laptops and servers and network equipment and stuff like that. But when we saw customers doing stuff that we have never even thought about with our products, I kept on asking them, why do you keep coming back to us? Why do you use our product? And they were like, yeah, but you've done one thing right, and that's you gave us the freedom to do the whole data modeling and the whole thing. You just gave us the tools. You gave us the freedom, and freedom is an important word with Starhive and with us. We work to provide freedom and flexibility to our users, because no organization is the same. They all have their unique data models, their own reality, their own assets, their own world of things, universe, if you wish. And that's why we understood after a while, starting Starhive as well, to see this as in a more agnostic way, not necessarily a point solution down to a specific use case, but more on the versatility of the reality. So now, I mean, we have customers that use Starhive for completely different purposes, but it always comes back to data, your data that makes up your reality, and being able to model that data and design a system that fits you perfectly instead of obeying other vendors, software vendors' reality over their models and stuff like that. I think that's something good there that we're tapping into. And that's interesting. So yeah, that's what we're working on.
So tell me a little bit about you mentioned about Starhive. What actual problem were you solving, and why now?
Yeah, the problem has been there for a while. It's nothing new. It's about gathering what you care about in a central place, either by API and integrations, or by actually putting it in Starhive. Because we see still so much fragmented systems out there. There's always those ERPs, those HR, those CRMs, and those everything, right? But there are so many duplications, and they're so hard to get an overview. So we still think that with the technology of today, being able to centralize all these signals and all these attributes for the same data object in a central place is highly valuable. And especially now with AI coming into the mix, it's amazing, because AI loves data and it loves clean data and AI ready data. And by providing that, you can actually start deploying AI on your data. And that makes the perfect sense, because your data is your unique reality with the history that comes along, and every transaction that you do, if you can just care for that, make it not only clean but fresh and live. Now we're talking, because deploying AI on that and being able to surface what's happening in that in your core, in your organization, I think that's key. That makes you faster.
How do you see AI reshaping data management in the next 5 years?
I 5 years is a long time in the AI era, but I mean, what we see before us now, when we can talk a little bit more about vibe coding later on, but it's I think that's the vibe coding part of it is also about freedom. We always come back to that, because people are innovators. Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask you next about. You mentioned vibe coding. Can you explain what it means? So let's we can go back to that, but this world is changing, right? 5 years is a long, 5 days is a long time, right? 5 days is a long time. Everything's changing so quickly. And, but yeah, I want to go back to that. You mentioned vibe coding. Can you talk about what does that mean?
I mean, the vibe coding expression was mentioned, I think, in early 25 now. People are showing great interest for products where you can actually, conversational wise with AI, write code and develop applications or solutions. And it's spreading fast. We have actually a pretty famous company here in Sweden that has raised a bunch of money on that topic. And it's about giving the freedom back to the innovators to be able to create. If you need a site for your wedding, or if you need an application to sell stuff, you can just produce that by conversation with AI, and that's really powerful. I kind of love that freedom and the ease of use for citizen developers or no coders. But the thing with the vibe coding today is a lot of these solutions are prototype based, which means that they are based on a technology which is a little bit dispersed. You have the backend with a traditional database provider. You have some front-end parts, and then you pick it together, and then you get a great result. It looks awesome. But it's not that many that do the full stack thing, that you have the entire backend that is no code, super easy to use and flexible, and then you have the front end, which is a wide coded front end where people can collaborate on, and all of a sudden you have an application that actually can stand the tests of modern enterprises or businesses, because there is also something called compliance, right? And we have all those regulations coming out of EU and US, and that we need to take seriously. To know that our data is intact, we know where it is, we know that it's consistent, and we have a front end that doesn't break, and we own the whole thing at one single place, and stuff like that. So I think that's something interesting there that we will that Starhive is tapping into. We already have AI support for our backend, being able to create your environment with the help of AI. But we can do more on the front end side, and that's where we are exploring right now, and I think it's super interesting.
Can legacy providers adapt, or are AI first players just destined to win?
Yeah, that's a really good question. My personal idea here, I would say legacy providers, or I don't really like that word, but existing providers has been with us for many years. They have something in their backpack, right? They have a legacy. They have their architecture. They have all their apps and their platforms developed on sometimes a little bit old technology that are absolutely not AI first. I think the legacy providers will have a big challenge, honestly, because the AI first companies, I think, will eat the market. They will be so fast. They will offer, even if it's a little bit early right now with the more prototyping when we're testing this technology out, it will soon grow into organizations, that's for sure. I think that's what we're going to see. So when that wave hits, the legacy providers will, obviously they're spending millions and millions in AI development and those AI agents and stuff like that, and that's all good and that's great. But given the fact that they all rely on a certain level of legacy architecture and technology, I don't know. If I need to bet on a winner here, I would say AI first companies will shift them out eventually.
Well, think about it. We got 176 zettabytes of data on the planet today. If you took DVDs or CDs and stacked them one on top of another, today it would go 128 times between the Earth and the Moon, growing at 69.6% per year. So data is a problem. The problem is, how do we go down through and use that data to be able to make our lives better, right? And to give us superpowers, essentially. Because if you start nailing it, like we built, I had my stem cell problem. If I wouldn't have had the AI to be able to guide me within 2 weeks of where to go, I'd still be, I probably would have a lot worse problems than I have today. I wouldn't be riding a bike 50 miles a day, that's for sure, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Powers, these tools give us superpowers, and and I wanted to ask your opinion, but my opinion is kind of like your grandmother that loves you and cares about you. We're building empathetic and compassionate systems that care, right? It's different than a pragmatic model. If we just stay in a pragmatic on these pragmatic models, nothing good's going to happen to humanity because we don't treat each other right. And these are going to understand, we talk about doing the right thing and good and bad, but, there's shades of good and shades of bad, right? And so, so having these tools that are more like your grandmother, love you and care about you unconditionally, is really important. You should care about a company, right?
Yeah.
To be able to help them in not a bad way, but how to do the right thing. Anyhow, going down through this, if you could give your younger self, Tommy, one piece of advice, what would it be?
Start your first company earlier. I waited. This is always a risk, but I should have done it a few years. I was ready earlier, and never stop. Never stop. Believing that you can change the status quo.
Well, you were making good money and traveling and all that, and you got the money. Sometimes we don't want to disrupt it because you have to sometimes go back to close to square one to get way ahead, right? You got to learn, exercise. So what piece of advice would you give to founders that are starting companies today in today's market? What would you say to them?
Well, if it's in the software industry and developing apps or whatever it might be, obviously AI should be in every cell of your organism, I would say, because otherwise it will be hard to compete. And fail fast, and then don't be afraid to pivot if you don't find it right the first time. So that's a few tips.
So one last questions, and then we'll have a close. We're coming up to the top of the show. Outside of tech, what keeps you energized? Barbecue, football, wine, travel.
Exactly that. Actually, I'm a football coach with my kids' soccer team, and I do a lot of barbecue, even if it's stone cold here in the winter. I love barbecuing. Wine is also good, and as I mentioned, golf. So I have a few hobbies, and then I try to have time for them. It's important to exercise as well.
So closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you?
No, thank you for having me on the show. I'm always open to talk. I would love to talk about data, AI, vibe coding, everything around that. So reach out. It's Tommy, Tommy at starhive.com, or shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to chat.
No, that's great. Tommy, you're welcome to stay on board after we close the show, and we can talk for a few minutes. But I want to say thank you for joining us today. And to all my audience out there, we're at 1.4 million views, and that's great. Thank you. And as you know, GST stands for Get Shit Done. It's not about the talk. It's about the action. We are a family office, mine and my family's office. And the idea is how to curate companies faster than anybody in the world to be able to get that success. And we believe that intellectual capacity is evenly spread, but opportunities are not. So with that, I'd like to stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. We'll be back to you again soon with another exciting edition. Take care, everybody. And thank you, Tommy, for taking time.
Thank you, Gary.